Hey guys, welcome back to Langston Hughes Plays Minecraft.
Guys, welcome back to another episode of Langston Hughes.
Today as I build, I'm gonna tell you where I get all of my ideas. Because honestly, almost everything I've ever wrote came straight from the things that actually happened to me. My pain, my people, my streets. So let's get into it. Gonna go get some wood, you know. Can't play Minecraft without getting wood. Anyways, let's talk about how I grew up. My parents left me. My parents split up when I was a baby. My dad moved to Mexico. My mom was always traveling for work. So my grandma raised me in Kansas. Very fun fact. Make a crafting table like I make my career. Make an axe. There you go, because I'm Langston Hughes. Anyways, that loneliness from my family splitting up was very bad. And to compensate for this, I wrote the poem Mother to Son. I was basically writing the loving parent I never really had. And as we talk about my grandma Mary wasn't just watching me, she was filling my head with stories about black heroes and resistance. Her first husband literally died fighting alongside John Brown for black freedom. It's getting pretty dark, guys. I see a village. Watch this. Moving around as a kid, I ended up in London. Oh, like Lincoln. Moving around as a kid, I ended up in Lincoln. Ah, dang it. Moving around as Lincoln. Okay. Langston Hughes, time for bed. I've awakened. Anyways, moving around as a kid, I ended up in Lincoln, Illinois, where I was the only black student. Hey guys, I'm back. I died earlier. So I'm gonna restart, but now I have my friend Langston Hughes. He's me. In Cleveland, my teacher introduced me to a poet named Carl Sandburg who wrote about regular working class people in plain, simple language. I realized poetry didn't have to sound fancy or British. It could sound like the block. That's where my whole jazz and blues style came from. At 17, I took a train to visit my dad in Mexico. As the train crossed the Mississippi River at sunset, I grabbed an envelope and wrote, "The Negro Speaks of Rivers," right there on the spot. That one poem, written as a teenager on a train, got published and made me known at 19. My dad, James, was cold, money-obsessed, and honestly looked down on black Americans. He wanted me to become an engineer and forget about race. I hated that attitude so much that my entire career became the opposite of what he wanted. Sometimes the best motivation is someone telling you that you can't. No. Oh my gosh. I went to Columbia just to get to Harlem. My dad paid for Columbia University, but I barely went to class. I was too busy exploring Harlem. The jazz clubs, the theater, the streets. I dropped out after a year. Columbia represented everything I didn't want to be. Harlem was everything I did. After dropping out, I got a job on a cargo ship and sailed to West Africa. I expected to feel at home. Instead, some Africans didn't really claim me because I was American. That feeling of not fully belonging anywhere shows up constantly in my poems about identity. I also made a poem called Montage of a Dream Deferred, and it's literally just Harlem after World War II. When the black veterans came home expecting quality and got nothing, That line, "What happens to a dream deferred?" I was talking about my neighbors. Now guys, I'm gonna tell you about that time a rich white woman tried to control my art. A wealthy white woman named Charlotte Osgood Mason funded me for years and called herself my godmother. She loved black art, but she also had this weird idea that black people were more primitive and pure. When I started writing more political stuff, she cut me off. Langston Hughes! No, Langston Hughes can't go.
2,000 years later.
In 1937, I dropped everything. I actually had a whole 60-day tour of Russia planned, and went to Spain instead to cover the Spanish Civil War. The Baltimore Afro-American newspaper sent me to write about black Americans volunteering in the international brigades, and my articles got picked up by other outlets like Cleveland's Call Post and Globe magazine. I ended up writing 22 articles total, and the angle I was covering was something nobody else in the world was focused on. The Abraham Lincoln and Washington brigades were not only integrated, but had black commanders leading white troops. This was completely unheard of in the US Army at the time, and it blew my mind. I stayed for about 6 months, living mostly in a building called the Alianza overlooking Madrid. I was watching bombs drop on civilians. I arrived in Barcelona literally the day after a raid that killed around 100 people. Out of that, I wrote a poem called Air Raid Barcelona, about death falling from the sky on regular people. I also wrote Letter from Spain and Postcard from Spain, where I took on the voice of a black soldier writing home to his family in Alabama. In Postcard from Spain, Johnny talks about how people in Spain treat him better than white folks back home ever did. It was in Spain that I really found my voice for social protest, and I even met Ernest Hemingway there. He threw me a farewell party in Madrid right after one of the heaviest shellings the city had ever seen. I described Spain's fascist leader, Franco, like this: give Franco a hood, and he would become a leader of the Ku Klux Klan. That pretty much tells you where my head was at. After Spain, my writing had a fire in it that never really went away. In 1953, I was called before Senator Joseph McCarthy's subcommittee on investigations to answer questions about a communist influence in my writing. It happened in 2 parts. First, a private closed-door session on March 24th, then a public hearing 2 days later. The man grilling me behind closed doors was McCarthy's chief counsel, Roy Cohn, just a 26-year-old lawyer trying to destroy people's lives. At both hearings, I denied I had ever been a member of the Communist Party, though I tried to sidestep a lot of the questioning, and said I had recanted earlier sympathies I had with left-wing ideas. I did not name names. I refused to give them other people to go after. I was one of the 500 witnesses called before McCarthy's committee in 1953 and 1954. This included composer Aaron Copland and the wife of actor Paul Robeson. These were real artists and thinkers being dragged in front of cameras and being destroyed. The transcripts of what happened in that room were sealed for 50 years. The public didn't even know exactly what was said until 2003. What I can tell you is that after all of it, I stopped writing left-wing political poetry, but that actually pushed me deeper into the civil rights movement and back into writing about black music and culture. So in a strange way, McCarthy trying to silence me just redirected my voice. He didn't kill it. Everything I wrote came from somewhere real: a train ride, a grandmother's story, a war zone, a senator trying to destroy me. I didn't make up any of it. Life handed it to me. And that's the thing about art. You don't always need to go looking for something to say. Sometimes you just need to pay attention to what's already happening around you. So that's my life. That's where the poems came from. Thanks for watching, guys! We'll catch you on the next one. In the next episode, we'll be playing Roblox Murder Mystery with Miss Horton.